7 deuce off. It's unfortunate that this player shoved. If he had folded, I would have happily shoved. Most likely, this player has a hand where he's content to go up against the short stack if he shoves, but he's not going to want to call off a 12 blind stack with this player so short if this player does fold. So if he folds, I'm going to happily shove, and we expect him to have a hand like, say, ace deuce suited or pocket threes. Something in that kind of hand category that's not a premium, but certainly not junk. So Jack 10 roughly falls in that category. Ace 4 offsuit, we can shove any 2 cards here. An alternative would be to min-raise our entire range, which would be fine as well. If both of these players had around 3k, I'd probably do that, but this player being very short, I'd just go for the unexploitable open shove. Jack 6 off. Another spot that, with perfect stack dynamic, we can play anything and either shove or min-raise. And now we have an interesting spot where under the gun shoves, and we have to decide whether or not to call with our Queen 7 offsuit. Now, if we were playing for a chip mode, let's say this was an MTT, and a reg had shoved in the cutoff for about 4 blinds, we're in the big blind with Queen 7 off, this would just be a snap call. There wouldn't even be a decision to make. However, I like to fold here for 2 reasons. One is that I think this opponent is going to be on a tighter range than he possibly should be, given the fact that most players are fairly risk-averse here. But the other thing is that if it's close, and I do think this one is reasonably close, in fact, if we pull it up in Nash, it is not a call. So let me go ahead and do that. And in Nash, the cutoff is shoving about 20%, and the bottom of our calling range is Queen 8 suited and Queen 10 offsuit. Now, a good player is going to be shoving wider than this, because the alternative is to go blinded out, and so they should be willing to accept a negative edge. Whether or not this player is doing that is unclear, but we're able to accumulate perfectly. This is a fantastic bubble dynamic, and so I don't really mind if it continues. And I won't go too far out of my way with that concept. If I have what I think is a 100% clear call, then I'm usually going to make it rather than get too fancy and prolong the bubble. But if it's close, and the bubble's working out very well for you, that might be an additional reason to fold. Another any 2 cards open shove. 7-3 suited, same thing here. And these players should definitely fold often enough. And the interesting thing about this situation is that we've gone from about 4,000 to 9,000 chips, mainly without showdown, just by pwning the bubble. And so in that early phase of the bubble, that's why it's so important, if it's at all close, to go for that chip lane and be proactive with it. Because when you get it, you're going to have so many profitable future opportunities as long as the bubble lasts. So ace 2 suited, this is another good example. Okay, the bubble's going great for us, but if he shoved here, it's a very profitable call, and I'm not going to fold and decline winning that equity just to prolong the bubble. 6 queen off, I would shove any 2 here. And we managed to get it in the head. Pretty amazing given how wide we've been shoving. 8-3 suited, I'm not going to play. I think too often this player, now that he only has about 2 blinds left and is in the money, will call. So I'm not going to shove a hand like a loose suited 8, although it is fairly close. And the ace 5 off, this is another call where, for instance, if we're thinking from chip mode and reg shoves, that we can just snap call here. But the issue is that with this player being so much shorter, I put this player on a tighter range, and I'm also going to have a lot of good opportunities to keep on shoving into him, and so I like to fold. Let's actually pull this one up in Nash. And we see that the Nash ranges do reflect the fact that he's putting a lot of equity at risk. And so our calling range, if he's shoving as tight as Nash, which he may or may not be, the bottom of it is ace 5 suited and ace 8 offsuit. So not a crazy decision to fold, but against players who are likely shoving wider than Nash, as a lot of regs will be, then we're going to want to call there.